All right, folks. Back again here, and this is part 4 to my End Times Deception series. This one's going to be called America, Aliens, and How Global Politics Indicate a Conspiracy. So, get off the tinfoil hats, folks. Some of this stuff may be a little hard to believe, but I'm not even really sure exactly what I believe, but I want to go over it just because it's what gets said. And to be honest with you, it's whether you believe it or not, it's difficult to rule out. Let me just say that. So let's start with this guy right here. Now, in the last part that I did, I talked about how I believe that Trump, by way of his son-in-law, Jared Kushner, marrying Trump's daughter, I believe that he was linked with the Rothschilds, who everybody who follows conspiracy theory knows that the Rothschilds paid for a lot. They paid for the Supreme Court building for Israel that's in Jerusalem. I mean, they are rooted in Israeli politics like nobody's business. The Rothschilds basically control the politics in Israel, and they control a lot of the politicians in Israel. And by way of that, they control a lot of the politics in the world, because Israel's pretty heavy hitters, man. Their intelligence community, their Mossad is pretty impressive. They have dirt on everybody. That's actually who what's his name? They said he hung himself. I don't believe he's dead or not. He's dead. Ghislaine Maxwell's pimp or whatever. And I cannot believe Jeffrey Epstein. That's his name. Yeah. Right. A lot of people believe that he was controlled by Mossad. There's a lot of reasons to believe that. Ghislaine Maxwell's dad was linked to Mossad. So, I mean, Mossad basically controlled those two and used those two to go out and provide whatever perverted sex anybody wanted. And then once you did that, you know, they're going to record it. They've got that information, and you know they can manipulate you to do whatever they want you to do. You know. So that's a very interesting theory about Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell. And once again, it's difficult to disprove it. So you may not be able to prove it, but I'll tell you what, it's harder to disprove it by the connections that they have. Anyways, back to Lawrence Rockefeller. The Rockefellers, John D. Rockefeller, ran Standard Oil, got hugely rich. At one point was the richest man in the United States of America, right? Well, John D. Rockefeller had a son named John D. Rockefeller Jr., and Lawrence Rockefeller is one of John D. Rockefeller's children. He's one of his sons. I think he had a couple of sons. He's one of his sons, all right? Lawrence Rockefeller is relevant, one, because the Rockefeller Foundation and the Clintons and the liberal movement in the United States of America are linked to the Rockefellers at the hip. Like we said, the Rothschilds are the big money bloodline family behind Israel, Mossad, and probably Trump by way of all the connections. Well, the other side of that would be the money behind the liberals. A lot of people think is Soros, and I think Soros funds a lot of it. But if you want to know who the real heavy hitters are in the liberal world, it's the Rockefellers, folks. I mean, they are linked to the Clintons at the hip. Okay. This guy, Lawrence Rockefeller, is a very interesting character because of what he believed and what he looked into. Look here. I'm just going to read it for you. This is Lawrence Rockefeller's Wikipedia page. UFOs. In later life, Rockefeller became interested in UFOs. In 1993, along with his niece, Ann Bartley, the stepdaughter of the Winthrop Rockefeller, and the then president of the Rockefeller Family Fund, he established the UFO Disclosure Initiative to the Clinton White House. Okay? They asked for all UFO information held by the government, including from the CIA and the Air Force, to be declassified and released to the public. The first and most important test case where declassification had to apply, according to Rockefeller, was the Roswell UFO incident. In September 1994, the Air Force categorically denied the incident was UFO-related. Rockefeller briefed Clinton on the results of his initiative in 1995. Clinton did produce an executive order in late 94 to declassify numerous documents in the National Archives, but this did not specifically refer to UFO-related files. That's a big smokescreen, folks. I believe that they were thinking about doing the declassification that they're starting right now. They were thinking about starting that when Clinton was president, but for whatever reason, they backed off, right? Anyways, Rockefeller was in this knee deep. He had his own little division that was looking into this, folks, and they funded people like Dr. Stephen Greer, who I'll get into later, who made a movie and whatnot. That's interesting. I'm going to get into that here shortly. But I just want to show you this. And also, this Rockefeller guy, Lawrence Rockefeller, was like a nation conservationist, right? And again, his interest in conservation, I do not believe just because he wanted to save the planet. I believe this man also seen the link between UFOs and Bigfoot back then. He knew what was going on at the state parks, and he wanted to get to the bottom of it, right? And now what the people in the know showed him and what they didn't, I don't know. But I do know that the Rockefellers as a whole, as the Rockefeller Foundation, are a big money entity that controls a lot of liberal politics. A lot of the stuff I think that George Soros gets blamed for, the Rockefellers are at least as guilty of funding as George Soros, but George Soros is the guy that takes most of the blame, right? Okay, moving on here. This is John Podesta. I already established the connection between Lawrence Rockefeller and the Clintons. This is John Podesta. Do you think he looks like anybody? Okay, let me see if you can pick up on this. Here's Podesta. I don't know how well you can see his face here. Okay, that's Hillary Clinton's campaign manager when she ran against Donald Trump. This is Lawrence Rockefeller, one photo, or yeah, this is one photo, but I've got a better one here. This is Lawrence Rockefeller, okay? Once again, Lawrence Rockefeller, John D. Podesta, right? So they obviously resemble each other, and people in the conspiracy community believe that John Podesta was Lawrence Rockefeller's illegitimate son, okay? Folks, they have sex orgies, women get knocked up, and they have the children. They do not take the name of their fathers, but their fathers take care of them through life, right? Chelsea Clinton's dad is not Bill Clinton. I cannot remember that guy's name, but Chelsea Clinton looks identical to her real father. Google it, folks. This kind of stuff happens all the time. So, Lawrence Rockefeller, I believe what they say, that John Podesta, Hillary Clinton's campaign manager, you know, the creep that had all the weird emails that were related to like child porn with a lot of those secret code names for child sex stuff and all kinds of stuff. This is that guy. Some of those emails he sent, right? He's the one who had the email to Maria Ambrovic, or whatever her last name is, that high-level witch that Jay-Z and all those people go to, right? Abramovic, maybe that's her last name? Anyways, they had correspondence between him and her, and one of them, I believe, he was talking to his brother or another staff member about having her over to teach them some spirit cooking. So if you want to Google that, folks, there's a wealth of information about that if you want to look into it. Now, another interesting thing. Chester Bennington, who looks like John Podesta, okay? And Chester Bennington, if you're familiar with the lyrics that he wrote in the band Linkin Park that he sang when he sang for the band, right, before he was killed, a lot of that stuff, it's obviously speaking about some kind of abusive relationship, and a lot of people say that's because John Podesta was abusing Chester, and Chester was writing about it in his music, and so people were taking it as like a damaged love relationship, but he's actually talking about how his father mistreated him and sexually abused him. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but you can link Chester Bennington to the Clinton Foundation, the Rockefeller Foundation, so you can draw the parallels. And Chester Bennington and Chris Cornell, the singer of Soundgarden and Audioslave, Chris Cornell and Chester Bennington committed suicide around the same time, and they were allegedly, now this is alleged, I don't know if it's true or not, but they were allegedly going to come forth with the information that they had, that the people that they were involved with that were connected to the Clintons were involved with the kidnapping the children and kidnapping children in Haiti and peddling them off and to like sexual predators. You know, they were basically selling these children as sex slaves. That's why these two got murdered. They were working behind the backs of other people, and they caught them doing it, and they say that's why they got killed. they didn't commit suicide. They were actually murdered, and they made it look like a suicide. So, I don't know. I'll throw it in there. It's what people talk about. It's interesting. And like I said, whether you may not be able to prove it, but you are going to have a very difficult time disproving it, I can tell you that. Now, let's go back to the Rockefeller Foundation, the Clintons, and this guy, Stephen Greer. Dr. Stephen Greer. This guy is like the UFO guru to the White House for the last 15, 20 years. Okay? The Rockefeller Foundation funded his research into alien research, okay? And he's even got a movie that you can either watch for free on Prime or Hulu, one or the other, about his project CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind. There are videos circulating. Basically, this guy is a practicing warlock summoner, okay? In the movie CE5, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, they do summoning rituals, and there are photos from his summoning rituals to where you can see what looks like a demonic face that literally looks like the same demon called Lam, L-A-M, that Aleister Crowley allegedly summoned. Okay? Folks, you can't make this stuff up. Google the image. It made its way on Facebook. You've probably already seen it. But that entity was conjured during one of Stephen Greer's summoning sessions, okay? And if you have not seen this movie, okay, Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind, from this guy, if you have not seen this movie, I highly recommend you go see it. Because this is at least one spin that we know the liberals want to put on disclosure when it's coming, and this guy is up to his neck in it. He has advised the last 4 administrations of the White House, giving them updates on his progress. Every time a new president comes in, he meets with them, folks. They schedule the meeting, and he meets with them and discloses to them what his foundation, or whatever you want to call it, is doing and what they're finding, right? Okay. Some may say, where do I get, everybody know, where do I get that Greer was linked to the Rockefeller? Everybody knows this, folks. Lawrence Rockefeller went alien crazy, okay? Rockefeller also funded the research of the famous Harvard professor, Dr. John Mack, another guy who was mysteriously killed. He was the Harvard professor that was looking into the UFO phenomenon and all that. And him, being a trained psychologist, said these people experience something. I believe what they're saying is real. And he said that he linked the alien activity to demonic, and said that it was close to the stories, the biblical stories of demonic activity, which was the same. That was the same conclusion that the other guy, Jacques Vallée, came to. And literally, John Mack was ran over in the street. Some people in the community, actually a lot of people in the conspiracy movement believe that John Mack was murdered because of what he found, and they were told him, "Hey, look, we don't want you to say what you're saying," and he declined to go along, and he continued to do his work, and they killed him over it. Anyways, Rockefeller also funded the research of famous Harvard professor Dr. John Mack, author of the bestseller Abduction, that dealt with the alien abduction phenomenon, and the Disclosure Project of Dr. Stephen Greer. So Rockefeller funded Mack's research, he funded Dr. Stephen Greer's research, and probably had his hand with maybe even the Clintons in the demise of John Mack, folks. I mean, I know that's a lofty claim, I'm not saying they did it, but I'm telling you what, a lot of people around the Clintons showed up dead. What was it, like 70 people linked to them while they have been in politics? Like 70 people directly linked to them that they had direct contact with have allegedly committed suicide. 70 people. How many people do you know that have committed suicide that you've worked with? Probably not 70. That seems a little ridiculous, okay? So something's going on, right? Okay. Now, I spoke last time about Daniel 2:43. This is the prophecy. Nebuchadnezzar has this dream, and Daniel ends up interpreting it for him, and it is the dream of all of the ruling kingdoms of the world throughout time until the end when Jesus Christ comes back, okay? This part is the last kingdom before Jesus Christ comes back. It's in Daniel, and the specific verse is Daniel 2:43. It says, "And whereas thou saw iron mixed with miry clay," this is talking about the feet of the statue in Nebuchadnezzar's dream, the last kingdom to stand before the rock knocks the statue over, and the rock is Jesus Christ returning, right? And whereas thou sawest iron mixed with miry clay, they shall mingle themselves with the seed of men, but they shall not cleave one to another, even as iron is not mixed with clay. So whatever this thing is, it's mingling itself with the seed of men. Okay? So that to me sounds like alien demonic entities doing another Genesis 6 thing where they're experimenting with men's seed when the Nephilim were here, and the Bible makes it clear that alien and human hybrids called Nephilim existed on the earth before and after the flood, and that the Israelites slaughtered most of them when they took back the Holy Land, right? And the difference being is why this was allowed to go on after the flood, in my opinion, was because in Genesis 6 it tells us that these fallen angels came down and took women, all of which they chose. That means they took them by force. They violated their free will, okay? After the flood, I think the angels learned their lesson, and they said, well, if we don't violate man's free will, then God will let this play out. And so far, they're right. I believe that's what's going on. The Nakash in the garden did not violate Eve's free will. And he got judged, but he didn't get thrown in hell. And Jude makes it clear in the Bible that the demonic entities, the fallen angels that committed this sin, the sin in Genesis when they took human wives and forced themselves on them, are locked up in chains of darkness until the time of judgment, folks. That's written in the Bible. That's clear. That's as plain as day, right? So why didn't Nakash get locked up? He got judged. He had to move around on his belly, but he didn't get locked up, right? And I think it's because he did not directly violate Eve's free will. He didn't force himself on her. He just came in and told her a lie, and she believed it. Well, I think that is basically how they operate today. And what do we constantly hear? We hear of people making deals. We hear of people in music and movies making deals with Satan or making deals with demonic entities and conducting rituals to get where they're at, to get the fame and fortune that they want. We hear about the government making deals with entities, okay, like the Greta Treaty that Eisenhower allegedly signed with demonic entities, fallen angels, okay, which they think are aliens, right? Okay, I'll get into that a little bit later. But I mean, all throughout literature and everything, we constantly see over and over again, we constantly hear about deal making. And I believe that's how they are. That's how the fallen angels, which are actually what people call aliens, I believe that's how they are getting around not getting judged like the first aliens or like the first fallen angels got judged in Genesis 6. They came down and forced themselves on women, and God judged them for it. But now this next batch of fallen angels, okay, are, people call them aliens, and they're making deals with people now instead of forcing their way. So if you make a deal, you get what you think you want, and, that's just how I believe they operate. Now, you'll notice here, if you look into most of the new Bibles, especially the New International Version, this interpretation of Daniel 2:43 is trash. And just as you saw the iron mixed with baked clay, so the people will be a mixture and will not remain united any more than iron mixes with clay. So that sounds like a social issue. There's nothing about anything mingling themselves with the seed of men here. I'm going to show you why right now that interpretation is wrong. Okay? Look here. Now, the King James Bible was translated from mainly Textus Receptus, and your new Bibles are translated from different texts. Mainly the Alexandrian texts, there's about 5 or 6 of them, I guess, that were the main ones, and those texts didn't even agree amongst themselves. So basically, they just found the text they wanted, and whatever they wanted, they selected from whatever text, and that's basically how you get most of the new Bibles, right? Anyways, here's the verse, Daniel 2:43. Now, here is that word seed. They shall mingle themselves with the seed of men. Okay. Seed. H2234. Okay. That word is zerah or zerah, and it is posterity or seed. There's no multiple meanings, folks. This is cut and dry. That is a seed. Okay. And H606 is Enosh, corresponding to a man. So that is the seed of man these things are mingling themselves with, folks. There's no doubt about it. You can't argue it. If you believe Textus Receptus and the KJV is the correct translation, and I do, and most people do, it's the closest thing we have to being perfect. That's the interpretation. The new Bibles have it wrong. Period. That's just, there's no way to get around it. Anyways, okay. Now, let's move on to this creating order out of chaos. How does this alien stuff and this creating order out of chaos, how does that play in to all of these countries forcing people to get these you-know-whats that they don't want by threat of you getting sick and dying, and this, that, and the other? Have you ever asked yourself how come all the governments in the world all agreed to do this all at once? It is my opinion they are in communication with fallen entities they think that are aliens that are giving them their instruction. And I believe they're all in on it because they have made agreements with these alien beings and they want that technology. So if the aliens say you've got to do this to continue this deal, they fold and they do what they're told. I think that's exactly why that every government in the world has agreed to go in on this fraud. Okay, my opinion, do with that what you want. Back to American politics. Creating order out of chaos. In short, I believe that's what we're seeing play out in American politics right now. Joe Biden, who everybody knows, even Democrats know that he did not win a popular election. He wasn't that popular. There's no way he won a fair election. Anyways, I'm not going to argue about that. I'm not here to argue about that. I believe they brokered a deal. I believe that's why Candace Owens even stated publicly that she was considering being Joe Biden's vice president. I believe they made a deal together, and they wanted to be like, well, if we're going to burn one of ours, if we're going to burn Joe Biden over here, then we want you to burn one of yours because this whole vaccine stuff ain't going to go over too well and it's not going to be very popular. And if we both join together, we'll share in the blame. And however they brokered that deal, I think that's basically Candace Owens was smart enough to remove herself out of that situation. But I think that's how, because it's unheard of for a Democrat to choose a Republican for a vice president, folks. This nonsense that Biden wanted Candace Owens to be his vice president just out of the blue is garbage. That's obviously shows collusion, in my opinion. Okay, but it's the order out of chaos thing. I believe, based on the theory that the occultists believe in, by creating order out of chaos, they want. It's like, what is it? You know what? I'll get into that in a later video. Anyways, creating order out of chaos. I believe that they want to create absolute chaos in the United States of America right now through the Democrats, inflation, every other thing else, they're going to throw everything in our lives so out of order that we will literally beg and cry for someone to come in and put this country back together. And I believe that they have made an agreement for Donald Trump to play that part. He will serve from 2024 to 2028, and he is going to usher in the answer to the order out of chaos problem, and I believe they are all in on this together, and I believe that Donald Trump will swing this country so far right because you'll actually be able to afford gas again and everything else, that it's going to swing so far right that it could launch us into like a no-eyed law situation, because when you combine that type of chaos and everybody's crying for an answer, and then they pop an alien disclosure on you folks, and alien beings are out here, you're going to have an answer for the people that's going to calm them down. Now, that may not make a whole lot of sense to you guys right now, why I tie that together, but it will as I go on. But I believe that will be part of the 2024 presidency of Donald Trump, the serious alien disclosure, when they really roll out the real proof that's going to have people that never believed, just their jaws are going to be dropping the floor. They've got that footage. They've got that stuff right now. They're communicating with these beings right now, folks. Whenever they want to produce information to drop your jaw to the floor, you're going to get it. They just haven't decided to give it to you yet, right? Anyways. Now, like I said, I believe it's eventually going to lead into no-hide laws. Now, there was this group that was I believe it was a fractioned off part of Majestic 12, that was investigating the alien phenomenon back in like the 50s, 60s, and 70s. This group was called the Collins Elite. And people try to make them out to be Christian heroes in the alien movement, but that's not what they are. What they were pushers of no-eyed laws, okay? They said that they actually agree with biblical principles that sin gives these entities rights to come and enter into our universe, into our life, and affect how we think. And they believe that if you instituted Noahide law, the basic 7 laws that were given to Noah when he got off the ark, folks, that everyone would follow them, that would prevent these alien beings from manifesting and taking over the planet. Literally, that's what these people believed, right? That plays into like the whole New World Order thing if you're following this, because you know that the Bushes and other countries are linked to these 7 laws of Noah, these Noahide laws, in which they're going to say, we believe and you believe. It falls into ecumenicism too. Everybody believes in one God. That one God preserved Noah. And if you're on the earth and alive today, then you are a son of Noah, because everybody came from Noah and his 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, right? Okay. In Judah, I'm going to read this to you. These are the 7 laws of Noah, the Noahide laws. In Judaism, the 7 laws of Noah, otherwise referred to as the Noahide laws or the Nachonian laws, I don't know how to pronounce that, folks. Just, insert whatever you want, are a set of imperatives which, according to the Talmud, were given by God as a binding set of universal moral laws for the sons of Noah, that is all of humanity, which is what I just told you, right? According to the Jewish law, non-Jews, Gentiles, that's most of us, right, are not obligated to convert to Judaism, but they are required to observe the 7 laws of Noah to be assured of a place in the world to come. In the world to come, folks. The golden age of man that's coming. I told you that's what these people believe. When their Messiah, Lucifer, comes back, he's going to launch us all into this golden age, this new world to come. That's why the back of the U.S. dollar bill says, Novus Ordo Seclorum, New World Order. They all believe it, folks. They all believe it. The ones with the power believe this, okay? The final reward of the righteous, okay? All right. The non-Jews that choose to follow the 7 laws of Noah are regarded as righteous Gentiles, pious people of the world. Okay? The 7 laws of Noah include prohibitions against worshiping idols, cursing God, murder, adultery, sexual immorality, theft, eating flesh torn from a living animal, as well as the obligation to establish courts of justice. So once again, folks, like I told you in the last video, this gay agenda they're pushing on you as like an error of Balaam thing to get you to get into sin so God will judge you and they can have your stuff, okay? That's a spiritual law. That's a thing that happens in the Bible, folks. This stuff is going to go by way of the dinosaurs as soon as they institute these Noahide laws. They're going to kill homosexuals. Homosexuals think they have a friend with the liberals that are in this country right now trying to tear this country down. But once they're done creating the chaos and they want to create the order, those same liberals will be on the same team as Donald Trump, folks, or whatever leader they decide. Maybe it won't be Trump. Maybe they'll go with somebody else. Whoever that leader is, they are going to flat be. That is why in Operation Jade Helm, folks, they bought all those guillotines. If you're not going to follow these 7 Noahide laws, they're going to cut your head off. And that is going to be because they're going to tell you there is an alien threat coming that's going to take them over. And if you do not worship the light bringer, their Messiah, then they are going to kill you because they can't have you around mucking it up for them, folks. That is what these people believe. And I know that sounds crazy, but I'm telling you, folks, people say that in Operation Jade Helm that Obama didn't buy those guillotines, folks. Yes, he did. Yes, he did. Those plastic coffins that were sent to FEMA and those guillotines exist, folks. They exist. Okay, moving on. You might be surprised to know George H.W. Bush, who was a Republican, so I've told you Republicans, Democrats, basically the same thing. They're just playing good cop, bad cop with us. Folks, he instituted the basis for Noahide laws in America in 1991. Okay. I'm going to read to you this page that I got out of this guy's, I guess, expose on this, okay? George H.W. Bush passes the Noahide laws in 1991. Remember, Noah lived prior to the 10 Commandments being handed down to Moses by God. Reference Genesis 9 for the everlasting covenant given to Noah and to all peoples of the earth. Why would George Bush, a Luciferian, pass these laws in Congress in 1991? 6 of the Noahide laws were given to Adam. The 7th was given to Noah, the grandson of Enoch. A Noahide, that's a name for a person who follows this. A Noahide is a person who maintains the oldest religious tradition known to man. That's where the ecumenicism is coming, folks. That's why the Pope is pushing ecumenicism. They're going to bring every religion under one banner, and every religion is going to follow the Noahide laws, or they're going to cut your head off. Period. Okay? And the mark is going to play into all that too, folks. I'm telling you, man, in the future it's going to get weird. But anyways, a Noahide is a person who maintains the oldest religious tradition to mankind, known to mankind. A tradition and beliefs which have been all but forgotten. My contacts keep getting blurry, folks. Forgive me. I know I'm butchering this up when I'm trying to read it, but I'm going to get through it. A tradition which is revealed in the pages of the book of Genesis. While the 7 laws of Noah were kept by Enoch and by Adam, they were called Noahide laws, however you want to pronounce it, because of the covenant made with Noah by God after the flood, and supplementary law was added at that time forbidding cruelty to animals and the eating of a limb of a living animal and the eating of blood. The rainbow with its 7 colors is the insignia of this covenant for all mankind. All right. Now, they're using that rainbow to signify something else right now, and I'm sure you all are very aware of that. But, folks, that's going to change. That is going away, and it is going away soon. It will be Christians that will be crying out for fair treatment of homosexuals and the crimes against them when this happens, folks, because Christians, real Christians that believe in Jesus Christ are really always trying to fight for what is right. And I'm telling you right now, these politicians do not care if you are a homosexual or not. They don't care about your rights. They are using you to create chaos, to create as much problems between you people in the United. They do not want us all getting along. So they have to create that division, folks, to keep us fighting and arguing. So we're all looking for a savior that's going to come and make it right, right? Anyways. You'll be surprised to learn that on March 20, 1990, President George Bush signed into law a historic joint resolution with both houses of Congress recognizing the 7 Noahide laws as the bedrock of society from the dawn of civilization, and urged our country to return the world to the moral and ethical values contained in the 7 Noahide laws. Okay? This would have been after the Collins elite had their input about how they believed through their research the 7 Noahide laws would stop an invasion, right? How that all plays in, I don't exactly know. How this was written into law, HG Resolution 104, Public Law 102-4. Now, I don't believe this is actually enforced law right now, but this is written into our law that hinges on certain aspects be met. But once these certain aspects be met, that becomes law. So it is just waiting there to basically be implemented. That's my understanding of what George Bush did in 1991 when he legalized this, when he made this law. It's just basically sitting there waiting to be used. All right. Now let's talk about the 1954 Greta Treaty that allegedly Dwight Eisenhower signed with these aliens. All right. Folks, I've heard a lot of different, stories about how this went down. I don't know what's true. I'll read you what's here because I believe for the most part it's on, but I'm not telling you everything that in here is factual, but this will give you a good idea of the basic idea of the story that gets circulated. The 1954 Greta Treaty is the ufological term for the contract that the United States of America entered in with Solar Warden. Now, Solar Warden is the name for this alien race that allegedly sits right on top of Earth in low Earth orbit, okay? They come down, they abduct the humans that they're allowed to abduct by the government, run their tests, but by that treaty, they're supposed to return them unharmed. And they're supposed to reset their memory so they can't recall what happened to them. Okay, now, whether you believe that or not is up to you, but I'm going to tell you what, we've got an awful lot of people in the United States of America and throughout the world that don't know anything about this treaty, that say they were abducted by little gray men and they can't remember what happened. Their memory is foggy, but they are absolutely traumatized about it to the core. Okay? Believe about this whatever you want. I'm just giving you information. America entered into with Solar Warden, undersigned by President Dwight D. Eisenhower in February 1954. The contract also served as the cession for unspecified U.S. properties to Solar Warden. A lot of people think we gave them rights to operate in our parks, and that's why so much crazy business goes on in our national parks, and why that if the UN were to take control, okay, and the UN rule the world. It is written into their law that they would push us all into big areas together, like all the major cities, and these areas would be designated off limits for us folks, okay? And basically it's almost like that right now. And we have verbiage written in our law right now that gives the UN rights in our national parks that we own right now. You know, occasionally you probably even see a vehicle in there with UN tags on it. I know you used to. I don't know if they still do, if you can still see that now or not, but I've seen video of that. So, I mean, the UN, by some law, I can't remember exactly how it works, they have basically more rights to our national parks than we do. And we're the citizens that own it. So, go figure. Anyways, following line items of the Greta Treaty are subject to updates as new information is revealed. Official documentation of the treaty is not available or non-existent. Yeah, no one's got a copy of that. Like I said, we're just doing the best we can to piece this information together. But I'm going to go over a few points we believe exist in this, okay? The U.S. government is to swear to secrecy of these aliens' presence on Earth. So they can't come out publicly and tell you that they're here until the aliens allow it, right? The aliens are saying, no, the people aren't ready. The U.S. government may be furnished with information to advance technology, okay? A lot of people think that's how the U.S. came up, how we got the technology for the stealth fighter and all that stuff, folks. They believe that was stuff, that was information we got from these beings, okay? A quota for biological specimens must be met. So the United States of America, President Eisenhower has agreed to provide these beings a set number of biological specimens per year. A quota of biological candidates are to be returned to their point of origin with no recollection of the event imposed. We're talking about an abduction here, folks. These beings, okay, the U.S. government has to let these beings abduct a certain amount of, they're calling them candidates, but they're abductees, but the aliens have to return the abductee to their point of origin, and the abductee is not supposed to have any recollection of the event ever happening. Full access to the U.S. government facilities is required, okay? So they say, if you've got it, we want to see it, you got to show it to us, right? Full DNA activation for all humans. What that means, folks, is kind of loaded. Probably some type of mark thing. But I'm telling you right now, basically what is happening as the United States being, you know, like the ruler, the president of the United States being the ruler of the United States of America, speaking for us, has made a deal with these people. Now, you've heard me talk about David Paulides before. A lot of David Paulides' research, he finds that these people that are being abducted are of German descent or of Freemasons, right? Okay. So now, folks, they're taken from their own, apparently. You know, if you're a Christian, you can rebuke them. Joseph Jordan has a video about this, where he found in MUFON there was over 500 cases of people stopping alien abductions by commanding those beings to let them go in Jesus' name or praying during the abduction and the abduction stopping. So if you're not a Christian, you're powerless to this, right? And that leads me to also what people call military DUMBs. DUMB is short for Deep Underground Military Base. Now, in these DUMBs, or Deep Underground Military Bases, they're not just in the United States, folks. They are all over the world, okay? In the United States, they have underground trains that connect all of these military bases. And down there is allegedly where they're doing most of the experimenting, okay? And, you know, folks, you can decide whether you want to believe that or not. It's hard to disprove. There's a guy out there named Phil Schneider that was literally missing fingers. He said he was hit with some kind of energy hit when he was down in one of these DUMBs and you know, got into some kind of confrontation with these beings. And eventually they said that, once again, you got a guy, they say Phil Schneider committed suicide. To me, by the autopsy photos and stuff, he was obviously strangled to death, folks, by somebody else. But, of course, they say he did it to himself. That's something you should look into in your own free time. I'll probably get into some of Phil Snyder's stuff and military DUMBs in the future, but for right now, I'm just going to move on. Okay. Now, this Solar Warden group, okay, a lot of people call this the Galactic Federation, right? They say there's good aliens, bad aliens, reptilians, the Nordic-looking ones, which are the ones that look like humans in peak condition with long blonde hair and perfect skin, okay? Solar Warden is a space force that has presence in low Earth orbit. The United States entered into a contract with Solar Warden in February 1954. The engagement prompted 30 years of preparation that finally organized into the United States Space Force in 1984. Donald Trump did the United States Space Force thing. I don't know if they're implying here that maybe that division existed before, but Donald Trump just basically disclosed it. I don't know what's being talked about here. Solar Warden is a private entity that is not the property of the United States. Other nations have space technology. Other nations having space technology are also under contract with Solar Warden, such as, but not limited to, Japan, China, Russia, India, the European Space Agency, the United Nations. Each nation entered into their contract at various times, depending on their overall technological advancement, which is specifically contingent on uranium enrichment capability. I don't know where they get that, folks. I'm not entirely sure that's true. The collaboration in undersigned nations is why unidentified flying object phenomenon has been under wraps on a worldwide scale and not just the United States. Okay, notice a few things. People all over the world were seeing UFOs in the sky and experiencing abductions, and every nation across the board has categorically denied these things existed and said that people who talked about it were crazy. Okay, what's another thing they all agree on? They all agree on the medical tyranny that's going on right now, where they think they have a right to put in your body anything that they want, right? I can't get into that, or else they'll suspend this video, They'll take it down, and I'm not dealing with that. You folks know what I'm talking about anyways. Anytime all the nations agree on something, folks, they're probably taking their marching orders from these alien beings that they're in a covenant with. Okay? That's my opinion. All right. Now, I told you last time I wanted to get into this Babylon workings thing, okay? This guy, Jack Parsons, along with two other people here. Mallory Cameron was kind of, I don't know if they were ever married, but Jack Parsons and Mallory Cameron, they were sleeping together and conducting sexual rituals to try to impregnate her with the woman that would give birth to the Antichrist, right? L. Ron Hubbard was involved in this too, and if I'm not mistaken, Jack Parsons took L. Ron Hubbard's wife from him. Now, I'm not sure, I don't believe it was this woman. To be honest with you, I really didn't look into it much because I really don't think that matters in what I'm talking about here. But it's important to know that Jack Parsons was literally, this is the woman. They thought this woman was going to carry the Hilarion spirit, I believe they called it, which is why people thought that Hillary might have ushered in the Antichrist. But it's this feminine spirit or this feminine incarnation that would give birth to their Messiah, Lucifer, which we know is the Antichrist, okay? L. Ron Hubbard, this is the author of Battlefield Earth. He is the founder of the Church of Scientology. Him and Jack Parsons were working together in this Babylon workings, which was a series of rituals over a period of years in which they literally tried to give birth to this feminine entity being, tried to incarnate her so she could give birth to the Antichrist, okay? Now, as far as why they believe that and whatnot, good luck getting to the bottom of that, because you hear a lot of crazy stuff that's really not worth repeating at this point. If I hear anything substantial, I'll cover it, but so far, it's just a bunch of crazy sex rituals that were unsuccessful, but people do believe that Jack Parsons and L. Ron Hubbard, who were basically cronies of Aleister Crowley, they were followers of him, they followed his work. They believed that they were using rituals that they were taught by Aleister Crowley, and they opened up the portal in Nevada, which made the Roswell incident in 1947 possible. They believe these guys might have been responsible for it, and there's even some talk about how Aleister Crowley or one of his right-hand men had to come over and close the portal or something. I don't necessarily believe that, but that's what people say. I'll throw it in here and tell you. Now, we talked about bloodlines. I'm going to show you this. That's Jack Parsons, folks. It's kind of a Grady photo with Jack Parsons, but, I just wanted to show you this, Jack Parsons, because a lot of people say that Jack Dorsey, the ex-head of Twitter, is his son, okay? Pictures of Jack Dorsey here, and I think I've got some more of, here's Parsons here. This might be a little bit better, it's still kind of small. Anyway, my advice to you, because it's hard for me to get a nice, clear picture on here, but Google this for yourselves, folks. Google pictures of Jack Parsons and compare them to Jack or Jack Dorsey of Twitter, and then decide for yourself what you think. I think the resemblance is pretty uncanny, and if you're asking me, probably is his son. Okay, but I mean, I wouldn't bet on it, but I think it's possible. It's definitely possible. Okay, another bloodline thing. Now this I think is this is harder to deny. Barbara Bush, George W. Bush's mother, is allegedly the daughter of Aleister Crowley. And as you can see here, the resemblance, their facial features, folks, it is uncanny. Now, once again, I can't do this justice for my computer on this video because the video quality is going to be low. Get on Google and Google these images and compare Aleister Crowley with Barbara Bush herself. I'm telling you, folks, I believe that these two are related. I really do. I believe that Barbara Bush is of Aleister Crowley's bloodline. I absolutely believe it. Okay? Here's another one that's undeniable in my eyes. That is Fidel Castro, folks, and that is Justin Trudeau. Now, they deny publicly that Fidel Castro is his dad. They say his real dad is that Trudeau guy that he calls dad, right? But literally, his mother spent time with Fidel Castro, and they look identical. Another thing to Google images, I would almost guarantee you that Justin Trudeau is Fidel Castro's son. Once again, you're following bloodlines and people that rule, I'm telling you, folks, they try to maintain that kingship blood. It's important to them. All right, another one to look at. Angela Merkel, I think she's the ex-prime minister now, the ex-prime minister of Germany, and Hitler. They say that Merkel was Hitler's daughter. If you look at this, folks, they've got the same eyes. They've got the same bags under their eyes. They've got that same droopy chin with lines down the bottom of their mouths. They've got the same chin, double chin. Folks, it's hard to deny. It really is. And I think that's just about it. Let me see if there's anything else I wanted to go over here. All right. One more thing I want to go over here. Let me find... I already read Daniel 2:43 to you about these beings mingling themselves with the seed of men. Now I want to read Psalm 2 after I tell you what I think is going to happen, folks. I believe there's literally a global conspiracy against God. These people are in agreement and in covenant with these fallen beings. They believe these fallen beings are going to usher mankind into this golden age, and they're going to make us Ubermen or Supermen. But Uber doesn't necessarily mean super. It means like the next level man. Like you're no longer a human being anymore. You're something else. I believe that conspiracy theory is covered in Psalm 2. I really do. And I'll read that to you in a moment. But folks, that is literally my worldview. Now you have to decide for yourself whether you think that's crazy or you think you need to wait and see. Maybe you do. Maybe you've already gotten to this point, and maybe you know more than me for all I know. But I'm just telling you, folks, this is my working hunch. This is my worldview. Anything that goes on in politics that I see, I'm going to see through this lens because I believe they are all working together in a conspiracy with alien beings, folks, that I know in my heart are fallen angels. I believe that, folks. And I believe they are going to facilitate the Lucifer manifesting in our realm, and they are going to call this thing Christ. They believe that this thing is the second coming of Christ, folks. These people are going to call themselves Christian. Christ means anointed. They will say that they're Christian. They've got the true interpretation, and we silly fools misunderstand our Bibles, and there's no place for us in this new world if we will not take this being's mark and be part of the new world to come. And they will murder us. They will chop off our heads. They will force us to take the mark. I believe all of this is coming down right now. I believe the alien experimentation, among other things, is probably them reworking and perfecting the mark. They are probably trying to figure out a way to make mankind more malleable, but also make mankind an eternal being to stop your body from aging. If they could turn the aging gene off or whatever that is, technically man would continue to live unless you were murdered, right? Folks, I'm telling you, and we know in the Bible that at some point there will be a mark that men are given, and the Bible says that men will seek death and not find it. So they are going to have a form of immortality in which that they cannot kill themselves. It sounds like their body will regenerate. Could you imagine somebody sitting around, putting a gun under their chin and blowing the top of their head off and coming back to life? Okay? Factor that into all the weird verbiage that we are seeing written right now that's in all the legalese of like user agreements and stuff where they talk about this type of stuff. Why are we seeing zombie type of literature or resurrection type talk being written into license agreements to use software? Folks, that's insane. I just watched a video by Debut7 in which that in Amazon's writing, it is buried in all the legalese of the user agreement. They're talking about this stuff. It is so, it's strange, folks. You ought to go to Debut7's page and watch that video. Go to his YouTube, watch that video. Why are they talking about zombie stuff in there, folks? I think that's basically everything I wanted to say until the next video, but I want to read you Psalm 2 because I believe this shows the whole conspiracy and about how these nations are conspiring together against God, okay? I'm going to read it here to you now. Psalm 2. Why do the heathen rage and the people imagine a vain thing? I believe that vain thing is they're going to overthrow God. The kingdoms of the earth set themselves, and the rulers take counsel together against the Lord and against his anointed, saying, that's a conspiracy, folks. That's the kings of the earth. That's all of them conspiring against Jesus Christ. I believe once Lucifer or Apollo manifests, the Antichrist manifests here, they will say that an invading force, the bad guy, which is actually the good guy, Jesus, that invading force is coming back to put you under laws. And if you want to be free, and if you don't want that being telling you what to do, then you're going to have to help Lucifer fight Jesus coming back. But they flipped the whole script to where they believe that Lucifer is the good guy and Jesus Christ is the bad guy. And it kind of falls into that Anunnaki stuff about Enlil and Elil or whatever the other one's name is. You got to check that out. Okay, continuing on. Let us break their bands asunder and cast away their cords from us. What they're saying is we're not going to follow these Christians' laws. We're not going to follow their God. We're not going to follow God. And, I actually like how the NIV interprets this. Let us break their chains and throw off their shackles. They feel like we're holding them back. If you're a Christian, you're holding these people back. That's their view. He that sitteth in the heavens shall laugh. The Lord shall have them in derision. Derision means like heavy mocking or scoffing, right? So basically, the Lord in heaven is literally laughing, folks, because this is not going to be any fight at all. If you studied Revelation, you know in the end, Jesus comes down, the sky splits open, and out of the word of his mouth he speaks, and these beings just dematerialize at his feet, and they say that blood rises up so high that it's up to a horse's bridle. Okay? So it's just basically, he kills them with the sword of his mouth. He's going to come back and literally say probably one or two words, and they're going to dematerialize into puddles of human flesh right in front of the world. It's going to be insane, folks. Okay. Then shall he speak unto them in his wrath, and vex them in his sore displeasure. This is talking about how Jesus is going to deal with this. Yet have I set my king upon my holy hill of Zion. I will declare the decree. The Lord hath said unto me, thou art my son, this day I have begotten thee. This is talking about the relationship between our Heavenly Father God and God in the flesh, Jesus Christ. Okay? And it's fulfilling a lot of prophecies in the Bible, folks, about how that a being in the image of a man is going to be given all authority in the world. And if you're an angel and you're a ruling authority like now, if you're part of the principalities and the powers that are ruling right now, like Paul's talking about, you're not happy about that. The fallen ones aren't happy about that. The righteous angels love that. They worship Jesus Christ, right? The unrighteous angels, the fallen angels, don't. They don't want him coming back ruling over him. He's a man. They think because he has humanity that he is less than they are, folks. They hate humans. Okay? That's basically how I see it. Okay? Ask of me, and I shall give the heathen for thine inheritance, and the uttermost parts of the earth for thy possession. The Heavenly Father is saying to the Heavenly Son, I will give you this when you ask. Thou shalt break them with the rod of iron. Thou shalt dash them into pieces like a potter's vessel. That is talking about Jesus Christ, the conquering king, returning and slaughtering these beings, folks. A lot of you think Jesus is some hippie talking about peace and free love and just let everybody have what they want. Oh no, folks. He's a conquering king. And the unrighteous are going to pay with their lives. You need to understand that aspect of God's character. He is all righteous, and sin is going to get judged. We live in the age of grace, and the people born into the age of grace don't understand what a gift it is. You're giving time to where you can decide who you want to serve, folks. But there's going to come a point in time when that age of grace ends, that dispensation is over, and you're either with Jesus or you're against him, and the ones that are against him are going to get slaughtered. They are going to use that against him to slander him while the Antichrist is here to build the army against him, I believe. You know, this being's coming down here, and if you don't agree with him, he's going to slaughter you. So what do you think about that? You better take my side. I could hear how Lucifer would try to spin that his way, you know. Be wise now, therefore, O ye kings. Be instructed, ye judges of the earth. Serve the Lord with fear, and rejoice with trembling. Kiss the Son, lest he be angry, and ye perish from the way, when his wrath is kindled but a little. Blessed are all those that put their trust in him. Folks, I'm telling you, Jesus is not somebody you want to upset with sin. I mean, that's basically what it's saying, you know. But anyways, folks, that just about does it for this video. If you have any questions or anything, feel free to email me or hit me up on any of my social sites. I've got all that information in the description, and I'll be back with a part 5 as soon as I finish putting it together, folks. Anyways, until next time, God bless you all in Jesus' name.